8. Just checking the time there. 10 seconds gone. It's the 8th of January. It's the 8th file on this device. And it's about 1:45. I'm walking into Orizon. And I was just thinking, this is already history. Literally as soon as I talk. I was also thinking that whenever, if ever, you listen back to this particular file, although you can hear my footsteps and you can hear the birds, but you can't see the scene. I imagine myself listening to this in bed or at night time, and you can't see the scene that I'm looking at. I've just passed the olive part of the walk on the way to Orizon. I'm beside a tree, an old tree which is branches broken off. And on the other side, I'm looking at the very modern house. And it's really lovely sunny day. There's a slight breeze, a little bit of snow on the top of Lure. And everything is kind of different shades of brown. The land, parts are ploughed and brown, parts are lavender and a different shade of brown, and on my right then there's kind of wild grass about a foot long, and that's kind of different shades of brown. Blue sky, but not totally blue. There's a lot of light blankety white cloud. That's what it looks like. I'm wearing my 2 jackets, gloves, got my bag on my back, I got my Walkman with me, and I'm wearing my cowboy hat. Tomorrow I'm going to give McMandy a lift to Cadarash. I have to pick him up at 12:30. That's tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, same thing. And I'm glad it's just that, because I think at one point Mick was hoping maybe I'd bring him to Cadarash and then kind of hang around for 3 hours and drive him home. But that's not happening. So I'm out and about. A moment in history. The 8th. Is it the 8th? Yeah, it is. It's Wednesday. David Bowie's birthday. Elvis Presley's birthday. I do listen back occasionally to these files, and I don't know what the purpose is. I was watching Star Trek Voyager yesterday. They were talking about death, what's left behind, and 7 of 9 said that because of her time in the collective, all her memories and everything she'd done would be stored and would be there forever in the collective. And it made me think of these things, these audio files, and how somehow by putting all this stuff online, even though it's private at the moment, there's an irony there that I upload 200 audio files, and the idea is that they would be there traveling through digital space and time forever after I'm gone. But of course, if I don't make them public and something happened to me, there would be just no one would be able to listen to them anyway. So I must perhaps make them all public again, just in case. And that way, somehow, like 7 of 9, there's some kind of a feeling of, I don't know, that you've left something behind and out there of yourself. Quite a kind of vast, maybe vast is too strong, but quite a lot of dialogue about yourself and your time here. What was on your mind, even if looking back, a lot of it, or to other people, it may seem rather trivial and a little dull. There isn't any great big adventures. It's kind of petty stuff for the vast amount of it, and a kind of very normal relationship stuff. I wasn't doing these things when I was drinking. It would have been interesting to have some, to have, not some, but let's say have a lot of audio files from way back, to compare them as the years have gone by, from the beginning of the Connemara even, let's say 20 years worth. But I have started now, and it is 4 years into this, so there's a possibility that there may yet be 20 years of these at some point. Where are we now? Well, I'm supposed to be looking for a job. And I ranted about that actually in the previous entry, so I don't need to do that again. It is, suffice to say, a difficult task. Because, like I said, I'm doing something kind of in the dark. I don't quite know what the best way is to do these searches, or to write CV type letters, Anyway, fuck that for now, because I'm out walking. I don't need to go there. Let's just say I'm on a break for the next hour or two, and I can clear my mind of that stuff. And I can clear my mind of, well, thankfully the medical stuff is kind of done for the time being. I have a meeting with Merite at the end of the month, and I hope it's going to go like I see it in my mind, where I say, I want to wait 5-6 months and then maybe have an injection of something different to see if that can work, if that's okay. It would be nice to see him and then be in a situation where, providing nothing changes, that I am away from all the medical stuff for 6 months. That would be fantastic. But let's not go there either. Let's think of magic and serendipity, and let's stop for a pause to look around at the stillness. Let's think of the moment. Let's be in the moment. If you're safely, thoroughly in the moment, then you're at peace. Because the only thing you have to worry about is just each step here. Forget about the destination, forget about the evening. Forget about tomorrow, forget about McManly, forget about Merity, forget about job hunting. Forget about Flo, forget about Tuco. Just put yourself in the space of the now, the moment. And the best way to connect to the moment is to think about your breath, because that inhalation is like the moment itself. That's really all that you have to think about. Just inhaling that next breath. That's all you have to do. Whatever thoughts come, let them drift away like the clouds. Sure is a lot of traffic on this road. Oh my God, there's a van coming way too fast. And another car. I'm sure there was a time on this road used to be a lot less traffic when I was drinking. Enjoy it. If one stays in the moment and just thinks about the next breath, where do you go from there? Does something nice happen in the feeling faculty? I'm always someone who is thinking about the next thing. I'm always, in a sense, catching the next task. I'm always a little bit in the future. So I'm walking to Orzon. My mind is, what do I do when I get to Orzon? And then it's like, I'm in Orzon. When do I leave Orzon? And then it's, what do I do when I get home? Constantly about an hour in the future. Because it's hard to stay in a moment like this when there isn't any objective, there isn't any that great word, doing, the doing. There is no doing here. There's just walking, which obviously that is doing of some kind, but you know what I mean. I like to have, I don't think it's a case of liking to have, it's a strong habit, something very hard to break. That notion of having something that's going to distract me and in some way release a little bit of Doberman. Probably pronounced that completely wrong. Dobermine. What is that? That little drug that a pint of alcohol will help to achieve in a chemical way. It's that little feeling of, yes, I did this to my Walkman and now it's playing better. That moment of, yes, I wasn't sure if I sent the crypto to the right address, but there it is, thank God. That moment of, whew, I feel happy now, and it lasts for a couple of minutes maybe. This is why I do tasks. To finish the task, have that burst of that happy stimulation of the neuron for a few moments, which I guess is why going on to the French Travail Pôle Emploi site is difficult because there's no definitive finish to that job. It is just a constant doing without a reward. But even this morning I managed to record from my V115 radio to a cassette tape. And you see, there is some kind of a small reward in that. It's like a couple of cents of neurological happiness in doing that. And last night the same thing, I recorded from my phone to the radio. It's the same thing. I don't know why, but whenever I save something on a device like I'm doing now, there is a sense that it is time well spent. Maybe somewhere or other that's part of it. It feels like a decent thing to do. It feels like, in a way, planting some kind of digital thing that will be there, that's up on a channel that I will go back to in a year or 2 years or whatever, that I will listen to again, and I will say, wow, I'm glad you recorded yourself. It just feels useful. It feels like a useful effort. And so I guess as I'm doing this and the things I'm saying, there is that little stimulation in the neurons. The payoff. But if you're just in the moment concentrating on the steps, I guess you could still have a nice moment, a nice feeling, without actually doing any task. I like playing a game of chess and winning. There is a definite, not definitive, that's the wrong word, a definite little payoff when you win. Just for a second or two. When I listen back to these things, I'm very, very aware of the birds. But when I'm making the recording, I'm not aware of the birds as much. It's funny, it's there constantly, but it's a sound that kind of it's like when you do a task, but you do the task so often, like locking a door, and then you try and think back, did I lock the door? And you can't remember because you don't need to be conscious doing the task, because you've done it so many times. It's like your mind says, it's okay, we'll take care of this. You work on something else. And with the birds, it's the same. They're there. And if I focus on them, I can certainly hear them. But most of the time, I don't really hear them because I'm not focusing on them. I'm walking down the the road where the horses used to be. Don't think they're there anymore. Looking up at the Parapont Pint. Blue skies around. Very pleasant. It's not no wind, no cold. There's even cars coming down this fucking road. Man. I'm gonna cut through into the little housing place here where the bridge is. Ah, the birds just stopped. I think maybe because I'm walking near the hedge that they're all living in. It's nice to see all the leaves in the sunshine. I didn't really mean to say the leaves, the different shades of brown. Right, let's go across the bridge. You're definitely going to hear this. Metal bridge. And just like that, I'm in a different space, but one that is equally familiar. How could I stay positive and stay motivated? You know, sometimes it's good to have a self-assessment and have a sense of gratitude for things. And I think I think I can honestly say, without deluding myself, that I have progressed a lot. That I don't wake up in the mornings anymore with a sense of dread like I used to. I also, and I'm not saying it's easy or the problem is solved, but I'm finding a way to deal with this time of looking for a job and a conflict with flow. And I'm dealing with it. And most of the time I'm not full of anxiety. Because I used to have far more of it, I think, than now. So there's always the hope that time itself supplies the cure. There's a kind of a thawing effect. And that one day you just kind of wake up, or you realize, you just think, shit, I'm not bothered about anything anymore. Isn't that cool? I don't mind flow getting into a humor, threatening me with all this stuff because I'm not working. It doesn't bother me anymore. You know, that's a nice place to be. And perhaps it can come about just on its own. I certainly feel tranquil at this moment. I'm enjoying this walk, and I'm enjoying the conversation because it's keeping me kind of grounded in the here and now. I have said this a lot. Talking to yourself is one thing, but recording yourself is a completely different action. Because something is being stored away. It's like, I guess it's like writing. Like writing something on a page. You take it out of your neuron pathways. You put it in a book, and somehow you feel a little bit lighter. I think this kind of process has a similar effect. So many files, audio files. God, I wish I was being paid a proper full wage to do 3 hours of dialogue every day. I wish that was my job. 3 hours of dialogue. Do it in this device, upload it on Power Director, put it on your channel. That's what you do every day. In the moment. What does all that stuff matter? There's that myth of the veil. The veil of Maya. The illusion of things that you think are there, that you think are important, but they don't exist. But if you can get rid of the veil, what do you replace it with? What doings would be important? Think of my dad going to hospital the last time I spoke to him in the house, and he was just worried about making sure everything was locked away in the garage. Even the episode of Star Trek with Neelix. He was dead and they brought him back after 19 hours, and he felt nothing had happened after he died, and he was disillusioned. I don't know why. That's got nothing to do with this conversation, actually. I'm talking more about the little details that go to make up the individual's life. You have it all on my audio stuff here. The bullet points, the little post-its stuck on the board, you know, are the little notes stuck on the notice board with the little pins, like the Connemara when Flo brought me the table, whatever the person wanted. There must be some way of, how do you say that? When Flo brought me they're not reservations, the order, yeah. These little points in life, they're little bullet points of the moment. Some changing rapidly, day by day. Others more long-term, you know, rattling on, but kind of in and out of the consciousness. For instance, like the trip to Nice and Merity and all that stuff. The IRM scans. And they come and go. Halfway through last year, I had a whole section of Le Bon Croix being first and foremost on all of those lists. I'd ordered something, or I was in the process of sending something back, or I was waiting for a refund or whatever. Stupid little things. The little points. That's what we all have. Flaws. Currently her mind is on maybe, I don't know, 3-4 different yoga things. Maybe more than that. A small part is maybe on something to do with the administration from the Connemara. A little bit on her going to Maraval in 2 weeks, perhaps. Me, at this moment, a lot of it would be on the problem with getting a job. Actually, come to think about it, that's another reason why that creates a certain anxiety, the job hunt. It's because it is a bullet point, but it's like a bullet point in the middle of a page which has arrows to 20 different points. And so my mind is saying, I fucking hate this job hunt, because it's like a file, but when you click on the file, there's 20 other sub-files. And it's annoying, because it's not just one thing. The bunk example I gave was one thing. I'm waiting for a refund. So one day I look in the N26, hey, there it is, I've got a 26 in green. And that's the end of it. I can kind of throw that file in the bin. But with this job hunting thing, it goes on to sub-files. Maybe I could do a course. Straight away, that's going to bring up something. Maybe I should speak to Martine Manley. Maybe I should say something to Mick about Cadarash. Maybe I should go into Cadarash. Maybe I should work on a letter, motivation. Maybe I should translate things into French. Maybe I should send my CV off using the Pole and Place site, or maybe I should walk to places and drop the CV. You know what I mean? I didn't think about that before, but that's the way my mind works anyway. That's a logical reason for that thing to be having the effect that it does. It's not one thing, it's many things. Of course, it's even file into the relationship with Flo, what you gonna say. So it's got extra stuff on that side as well. And on and on. Anyway. Where's it going? Anyway, I'm walking. I don't have to think about that now. I'm just going down the hill from the old house at the top, walking past a big field used to be filled with lavender. Now it's all ploughed up and something's growing in it. You can see little shoots of green. Bonjour. I'm thinking how to improve myself. Seeing that proposition. What does it mean to improve myself? What exactly do I Do I mean by that to improve the way I feel? I don't feel too bad, but how could I improve? I don't really know what to improve. It's easy to say I'm going to work on improving myself. But it's vague, isn't it? People say I want to better myself, but that tends to make me think if I want to be more educated, I want more qualifications. I don't want that. I feel that's a different subject. I want to know more French, but I don't think that's anything to do with my faculty and my state of being. There was always this thing when I was drinking. You'd get to a point where you'd be quite merry. Neither really drunk nor sober, but the alcohol would be, I guess it'd be just kind of infusing in your blood, and it'd be just having that effect. And I used to always have a moment when I would think, God, I wish I could feel like this all the time, because in this state, nothing could bother me. It's a bit like being in the Nexus, that cloud in the Star Trek movie. You feel empowered, it's somehow untouchable, you know. And you think, I could still work on everything, I'd do everything I normally do, but without any of the baggage of feeling like I felt yesterday. Bonjour. Like I felt yesterday when Flo, we had some kind of a discussion about looking for work. And it got to that kind of, again, I don't have to go into it. It does actually generate a slight push of anxiety, just the thought of it. But it's a subject that's 150 years old at this point. You know what I mean. Very hard to be together and working together, not sucked into the anger and the anxiety when we get in that dynamic. I wish I could be in the same situation, but there's absolutely no emotional response. It just flows like this, and I'm constantly thinking, okay, but we need to work together. What do I want here? Let's make this easy for Flo. Let's not get carried away with the emotion. The few times I've done that in the past, it's magic. It just diffuses everything. Because Flo, her mood just kind of melts away if you don't exasperate. Is that something you can use in a sentence like this? I don't know. If you don't, for a more simple way of saying this, if you don't pour fuel on the fire, if you smother the fire, you know, that's the way I'd like to be. A bit like a Vulcan. Or 7 and 9, you just think, well, there's no point in getting annoyed about this. What's the point? I have to either try and work this and get some results, or what if it's kind of stressing to walk away from it or something? Anyway, I've kind of lost track of what the fuck I was talking about. To better myself. When I was a bit merry, I used to think I wish I could be like this. So those things are pointing to a very specific mindset. Would that be the answer? most things, I wonder. Your situation is the same, but your attitude, not just your attitude, but that feeling deep inside your gut is gone. It's changed. It doesn't kick off, you know. And instead it's replaced by a quite confident, warm feeling and a constant sense of how, I can say it, I think, unimportant it all is. That's a conversation I could never have with Flo. I could never say to Flo how unimportant it all is, even looking for a job, because she'd lose her mind. Hello, little fella. The other guy's quieter than you. I guess you know where I am now. I'm coming to the depot. How unimportant these things are, ultimately. At some point somewhere we stop drawing breath, and all our little trials and tribulations are over. And to be honest, when it boils down to it, when it's distilled down, all those trials and tribulations were felt by nobody but you. You stood in your own way, so to speak. Jesus, I wrote that down on a notebook about 30 years ago. Funny you can have a sense of a truth, a truism, maybe even a mystical thing. But my God, to be able to put it into practice, that's something else. But all your trials and tribulations, all your worry about this and that, it actually goes as soon as you go. So if you subtract those trials and tribulations, instead of waiting for you to go, you get rid of them when you're still here. You somehow purge them. You lose them. This is a good audio tape. It's going to be lost with all the other ones, but maybe someday I'll stumble upon it and I'll be like, wow, this one is interesting. I hope. I don't know. You get rid of your trials and tribulations. That's why music is so good, because when I plug into the music, which I'm probably going to do soon, because I'm approaching Orizon and I don't want to be talking into this little box as I'm walking through Orizon, but when you plug in the music, it almost either somehow bypasses all those trials and tribulations. It kind of, well, I suppose you could say you change the channel somehow, the frequency. You go to a different frequency. And you don't have any of those things bothering you for a bit. And even when you think on them, if you're listening to a decent piece of music, they don't bother you the same way. They don't bother anybody. Maybe if one could keep that thought in mind, all the stuff that's bothering me, it's just me it's bothering. All the stuff that bothers me, it's just me it's bothering. I had another one of those mantras. Concentrate. Concentrate on the breath. Concentrate. I can't remember how it went. I have it written down somewhere and it was very good. Concentrate. I used to say it to myself in the voice of Yul Brynner. Concentrate. It was about 4 lines long. A mantra of some kind. All your trials and tribulations bother you. Just you. Nobody else. So if anybody has the power to unplug them, it's you. And if you unplug them, if you stopped any worry, any negative thought, anything, nobody would know except you. You could be walking around in ecstasy and nobody would know but you. I'm gonna sign off because we're gonna have one car after another here, and I may pick this up on the way home and start again if I'm in the mood. Adios. The 9th file, huh? Well, it's funny, when I turned this on, I was going in the opposite direction and the sun was falling onto the screen, and now I'm going back. And when I turn this device on, the sun is still shining on the screen. The sun has moved so far in the sky. What do we do? Let's say, oh my God, what do you do? You know, been talking a lot in the previous thing about staying in the moment, the breath being the gateway to the moment. How if you're okay in the moment, there's nothing to worry about because that's your state of play. And the big problem is being in the future, either an hour or a day or whatever. Then I began thinking, so what would be a good thing to have on your mind? Either a mantra or a thought. And I thought, well, all your trials and tribulations disappear when you do. But when you're around, nobody knows about them except you. So why not drop them now? Why stand in your own way? And then I thought, is there anything else to say to oneself? If you find it hard to get motivated, or you have periods of just being uninspired by anything, and I thought perhaps what you could do in those moments is just think about the concept of simply waiting. You just wait. Do whatever you have to do. Don't push it. Don't try and find something. Don't start kind of going around like a lunatic trying to get all inspired by something, but just sit quietly and wait. Wait. Meditate. Concentrate. Don't push yourself into the future. Just let it be. Sometimes life is like that. There is no inspiration in the day. And then, as if by magic, it can come from nowhere. I don't know if that makes sense. People are different. I think a lot of people, they're the doing kind, and they don't allow any of the space in them to contemplate the things I'm contemplating, because they have found a system, a plan, and they're busy all the time, and this busyness with tasks, either important or not, gives them the feeling of justification, and it keeps their conscience happy in the thought that, I'm so busy. And the constant doing means that they never get to reflect on a thing or contemplate a thing, contemplate life. Where exactly they're going and is there a bigger point, whatever. Lots of people are like that. So for them, maybe life is easier. But for me, I contemplate these things, and so I have to sometimes I don't know how to finish that sentence. I become a little bit empty, down. I'm heading back now toward the olive trees. Get back home and maybe we'll have a look at the French Travail, although therein lies a minefield, because I can't rush Flo whatever she's doing, and I think the last thing she wants to do is spend any time at all doing this boring shit that I'm doing. And there's an example of jumping to the future. And actually coming up with something in the future that doesn't even exist yet. Might not be the case at all. There's more to it, and there's more things that I can't say really. Not because of being worried of anybody hearing, but simply because I can't formulate the words for certain complicated, complex ideas. Because when I try and say certain things, I know that it doesn't come out right, and it doesn't express with any depth what I'm trying to say. For instance, when you get to the point of being chilled out about things, let's say you get to the point of being like, you almost feel merry all the time, and you really have got to the beautiful point of no more trials and tribulations. You're so focused on things that nothing bothers you anymore, genuinely. But there's still perhaps the question of, how am I going to get motivated? How am I going to feel inspired? Childlike? How come when I went on holidays as a kid it was an amazing experience, and now I go off for a week, but I pretty much have the whole thing played through in my mind before I go, and it normally goes exactly as I play it through. There isn't much, I don't know, interest for me in it. See what I mean about that? It's a big thing I'm talking about, and I'm not really putting it across well. It's a subtle kind of thing. You can be very much Eckhart Tolle in the moment, and maybe if you reach some kind of nirvana state, you constantly feel high, maybe you don't want any more. But me, I got the sense that Schopenhauer was right. As I say this, I have a little punch of dopamine in my brain. just telling me, well done, that's so clever of you. Not many people are going to use Schopenhauer in a sentence. Well done, Eddie, you're so clever. Schopenhauer said, if everything is great, you've achieved all your objectives. The next thing that happens to you is boredom. Unfortunately. That's the thing I'm kind of talking about. Suppose you win the lottery. You have your 30 million. After 2 weeks, how are you going to feel? Still probably worried about your mortality. Still trying to figure out what the hell am I going to do today. Anyway, I'm home now. The field in front of me is freshly ploughed. My legs are starting to feel a bit used up for the day. And I will sign off. Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, or even good night.